So I've been putting carpeting in the 76 Corvette, and I've been taking the videos of it, and they are long, and I'm just going to put this little clip in the front of each one because there's a lot of useful information in there, and sometimes I find something out late in the video. So if you're going to do this job, you might want to watch all the videos all the way through, because I'm not going to take the effort to edit it so that the tips are at the front or anything like that, because it's a lot of work. This is the last thing I have to do, is the doors for the storage compartments in the back. Now, I saw on somebody's video, but it was a newer model, or an older model, a 72 I think, that they had screws to take this plastic trim off. Now, that plastic trim, I looked it up, was like at least $47 for 3 pieces that go around the doors. The piece that goes around that these bolt onto, that create the frame for it, $84. And if you wanted to buy one with carpet, I didn't see one with loop carpet like I have, but they had the plush cut carpet, and that was $384, I believe, for the whole assembly carpet already installed. So these look like they might have some epoxy covering a screw. So I'm going to try to dig that out and see what I can do with it. So there's one of the doors propped up in my vise. I spent probably 15 minutes digging that out with this hooked pick. And I don't know what it is, but it's not really soft. You can dig at it with that pick. But here's what I found. I'm going to zoom way in on that thing that's left. And I think you can tell on the camera there that inside of that hole, oops, kick the camera. And inside of that hole is beveled, so it will accept a bevel-headed screw. But I don't know what this is, but once I dug down far enough, hopefully you'll be able to see this on the video. You can see that that's separating right there from this. So what I'm going to do with the rest of them is I'm going to get a drill bit that is smaller than the hole in that, and I'm going to just take a drill and drill out the middle of that to a small depth, just enough to get it released from the plastic, and hopefully that'll make it a lot quicker to get those out than what I've experienced so far. So I go after that with this, just gently, trying to get it right in the center. And I'm not quite at the center. Doesn't drill very easily either. Not sure what that is. I'm going to switch to a smaller drill bit and try to get a center hole started first to get myself a straight hole there, because I don't want to mess up the plastic. I'm going to shut the camera off while I change drill bits. If I can't get this some way easier than digging it out, it's going to be a long, hard process. I'll switch back to the bigger bit now. Here we go again. Trying to see if I can determine that that's watch myself with this pick, or I'll be stabbing myself. Kind of coming loose. That one's definitely loose. Well, a little bit quicker than doing it the other way. I'm going to try one with going right in with this bigger bit, because that worked okay. But I've got to get this clamped in here well. I'm not happy with the way that's clamped in there. Let's try this one. For some reason, that little bit smaller bit wasn't biting into the material, whatever it is. And Maybe it was dull from being used on metal or something. See if I can get that to move. So there's 8 of these on each door. I don't know whether they've glued this down on the frame or... Nope. Nope. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. It's going to take a while, but I think I can salvage these things. Okay, I'm working on the 8th screw, I believe, on the first panel. Probably have been at this for about a half an hour. Maybe just carefully drilling and then using the pick. I don't think I'm deep enough there yet. Using the pick to get the edge out. Slowly, carefully working it so as to not damage the plastic. And we'll have to obtain some bevel-headed screws to put this back on. I don't know whether GM was doing this to save a penny, or I'm sure it was to save a penny somewhere or another, either by making it quicker or cheaper materials. But there we have it, one door panel disassembled, and was able to salvage the whole thing. Just have to do that 2 more times. Looks like there's still going to be some more work to do to get the carpet out of the edges here, because it looks like this is a different material from this. It looks like they pressed this in with the carpet partially underneath it or something, but I'll have to clean that up somehow. The other comment I want to make is I think on the other ones I'm going to try to go a little bit deeper with the drill and avoid leaving a hump here that I'll have to clean up before I put that back together. There's a lot of carpet remnants caught up in the edge of that frame. The way that I find that's best to pull it out is just get a pair of pliers that meets well up here, grab the strands and yank it. It's going to be a slow process, but like I said, that's what I've found so far to be the best way. What I might do, I don't think it'll make any difference. I was thinking of maybe before I pull the carpet out of the other pieces to take the frame off first and then pull the carpet off and see if that pulls this stuff out any better. So I might try that and let you know how it goes. But for this one, I'm going to have to work with the pliers, maybe with a pick to dig some of the stuff out of there. Get as clean up as I can before I put the new carpet in. I've pulled all of the threads that I could get off, and there's just some really fine red threads from the old carpet on here, so I'm going to use a trick I learned in the Air Force whenever I had a string hanging off my uniform. You just burned it and it would burn till it got up to the edge and it would quit, and all those little strings will be gone. So that's pretty much it for dismantling the first one. These humps were pretty easy to get off with just a razor knife. Just went and scraped them off. They cut pretty easy that way. So I have a plan for how I'm going to do this for the rest of them. When I left off this last time, I'd gotten to the point where I was comparing the size of the rug, the carpeting, to the size of the piece it's got to cover, and the pre-cut sizes are too big, so they have to be trimmed. So I was showing that to my son, who happened to come up over the weekend, and he said that I should take this and use it as a frame or a guide to trimming this, which kind of is a good idea, but I first put it in this way. The fit up there isn't good at all. So he said try the other side, and I did, and kind of fits better, but not down in that corner. I don't know if you can see it on the camera. It doesn't get into the corner well, so it might work, but I'd rather have it fit that corner better. The curves they have cut on here don't match the curves on the frame. So bottom line is, I guess at least 3 of the 4 sides have to be trimmed so that I can do that, and it's probably going to end up being all 4, because I don't think I want to trim off enough here to make this corner fit off of one side, because then I might be too short on the other end here. So I'm going to have to trim a little bit here, a little bit there, and then make the fit on the other side. So that's what I'm going to be doing. So I took a bit off of this end and just rounded this corner just a little bit. I got a fairly good fit there. And I was able to push this in on this side, but I think that would leave me with a bit of a hump. So I'm going to trim a little bit off of this side as well. So I took the tiniest bit off of this edge and rounded this corner just a hair right in the corner to make it fit into the frame nicely. And that makes it fit in, and there won't be a bubble under it once I get it on. So now I'm going to carefully trim back these sides, probably a little at a time, so that I don't cut them too short till I get the perfect fit. So using the frame as a guide, I cut this way, and now there's just a little piece here that's not allowing it to drop in. Well, there you go. That looks like that's good. Now I'm going to, again, keeping this in place. And the rest of the frame, I'm going to use the frame as a guide. And this will probably be a little too long when I am done with it, but then I can cut a tiny bit more off. Always seems when I'm getting towards the end of the cut that some of these strands don't cut very well, and it gets hard to do. Okay, so now I can see that I have just a tiny bit more to cut off. So I'm going to shut the camera off and make another run at cutting that and round this corner a little bit. And that should drop in there nicely. Okay, I'm going to have to clean up these two corners here and here to make this fit just a wee bit better. And then the one up here, and it should be a very good fit. Okay, got those in. One more right here. Gonna make that a little bit more of a corner because I feel a little bit of a hump there. And frame around it. I'll need to find some screws to screw into these holes. And what I'll do is I'll use a couple clamps to clamp this down, get it all the way in and held when I screw it in. That might be a little tricky because the carpet one wants to hold it up, but I got some of those hand clamps that I'll use on those. I don't have the screws today, so I won't be doing that today. But I think that's going to look pretty good. One last thing to do is cut out the hole for the lock. So in trying to fit that frame, it was hard to push it down onto the hard piece of the cover, and I think what's happening is any place where you've got little fuzz like this, if it gets between the frame and the cover, it just makes it hard to push that down. So I'm going to try to trim off all these little fuzzies all the way around here. I've got this set up like I'm going to set it up when I screw the screws in that will hold that frame on. I've got a clamp right over each of the 2 screw holes and one in the middle to bring this all the way down on the hard piece under it, because with just the 2 ends this was bowed up a little bit, and I may have to leave that clamped like that for a while after I get all the screws in. I have 4 clamps, so maybe I'll put one on each end and let it set like that for a while until that carpet compresses, because I don't want it bowed up in the middle if I can avoid it. But other than that, all that's left now is to make a hole for the lock. And what I think I'm going to do there is just leave that clamped on and take my pick and poke it in the outline of this, and then take this whole thing off again and use those holes as a guide for where to cut this for the lock. So just going to show you 1 or 2 of them. And I'll go around the rest of them, then I'll take it off and show you how the rest of them are going to be. So I got the hole cut in it. It wasn't the easiest thing to do. I wanted to make it relatively close to the size of the lock or latch piece that goes in it. And the latch piece has a piece of trim, so it doesn't have to be as exact as I made it, but goes in like that. And then on the back side there's a retainer. This will be interesting because now the screw isn't long enough because of the height of the carpet, because it hasn't been smashed down. The screw is having difficulty reaching the lock that it's supposed to screw into. going to try to compress that a bit with one of these clamps. But I have to put it so that I have access to the screw hole. I may not have it lined up with the, I don't think I've got it lined up with the screw hole. That might be a little bit tricky to do. There, got it. That'll hold that a little bit. And the only other thing, there's a hole for the retaining, or the little loop that allows you to, I don't know if this little loop goes on the outside. There's a hole here that this screw is going to have to come down through, so I'll punch one through from this side. As long as I can get that screw through and tighten it, it'll be fine. So I'll ram that punch, the pick through there a few times to try to enlarge that hole. Then I'll try to stick that screw down through. I don't think it's ready for it yet. We'll try it though. I think I might want to stick the pick through from the other side so I know I'm in the right spot. Okay. Slowly pull that out, put the screw where it's going. Not enough of a hole there yet, but I'll go ahead and keep trying to enlarge that until I can get it through, and then it'll be on to the other storage compartment lids. 2 more to do. And then once they're done, these 3 screws go into these 3 holes. I think I'm going to wait until I have the frame installed in the car to do that. So that's going to be it. I probably won't video anything else until I'm ready to insert the frame into the car. Okay, I've played with this enough, trying to poke a hole through there, and I can actually get the pick through and I can see a hole through there, but not able to get the screw through as of yet. So if I don't get this done very shortly, what I'll do is I'll just take this carpet off of this frame and use a punch with the hole that I've got marked now and make a nice clean hole that will work for it. We shall see. Okay, I took it off and punched the hole in it. Now, that's the backing, but it's attached by some threads. And I'll just test fit the screw through that hole. I'm sure it's going to be fine. So I'll reassemble that and it will be good. Well, almost good to go. I still need to get the screws and screw that on, but I probably won't even record that. Went in easy the first time. There we go. And I'll just try and do this right now. Hard to find that hole, even though there it is right there. Still hard to get it through. I can see the screw. There it is. So once that's bolted on, you press the button, hook your finger into the loop and pull it up. So except for fastening it finally on the edges, that's pretty much done. And I'm going to shut off the recorder and shut off the video and go work on the other two lids. And taking apart the next door, and actually it's the same on the other two doors, I found that the loop that I have on the first one was a fix, because these loops actually have a metal eyelet in them, and they are flat. I mean, you can get your finger through them, but the other one was just a loop with the screw through both things, and I think it was done that way because the screw that held it on wasn't as pretty as these screws. So it's not that big of a deal with as much of the stuff that is non-standard on this car. I'm not going to worry about it too much. Maybe if I get a bug up my butt, I'll just take it off and make it like these in terms of the flat loop instead of the circle. We'll see. I actually think the circle is a little bit easier to grab. So maybe I'll just leave it that way, especially since it's going to be right behind the driver's seat and nobody's ever going to see it. The other thing that I did notice about these two other frames is I thought they were designed so that they had a gap in them, but actually, in looking at them closer, they're both cracked. So I think what I'm going to end up doing is, while I have it off, I'll just take my plastic welder and weld it from the inside a little bit, and that should be good enough to keep it intact. So we'll get this center door off, and we'll take it over to the vise and start drilling out those plugs that hold it on. See, this I thought was a seam. Well, this is actually cracked in two places. So I will try to plastic weld those from the inside, and I'll have to smooth them out so they fit over this frame. I'll have to make sure they're a pretty neat job. If I can't do that, that's, I think, $45 for a set of these. And that's just the frames around the doors.